All right, guys, we got Chris Marks here today. Say hello.
Hello, this is Chris.
How you doing today?
Doing great. A nice balmy 72 degrees here in Kansas City today.
That's really unfortunate.
Hey, it's not bad here.
Yeah.
It's 55. That's why I'm wearing my t-shirt. Yeah. That's what we do in Utah.
Exactly.
It's either cold or not cold.
Yeah, it went from 55 to snowing and then back to 55. All in 3 days.
Yeah, we did pretty much the same thing. We went from snow to 70 to snow back to 70. It's nice.
Man, I wish this was in Kansas City right now. Gosh, there's like 180 barbecue restaurants there. Isn't that something like that?
Well, I think they're actually within a 50-mile range. I think there is close to 100.
Have you visited them all?
Usually about,
Did you?
No, you kidding me? You know what happened to me last fall.
Oh, yeah.
I can't do that anymore.
Right.
You're more like the Subway guy now.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So you guys, if you don't know who Chris Marks is, he has won the Royal 8 times, the Kansas City Grand Championship, which is unreal to think about. I mean, winning that thing once, no matter when it was, is quite a feat.
Right.
Over 50 national barbecue championships, over 600 awards, Jack Daniel's championship barbecue, sauce champion. I mean, on and on and on. If you know anything about barbecue, you know who Chris Marks is. You know his 3 Little Pigs, rubs and sauces. You know that he does classes, which I've taken before, and they are great to take. But let's talk about you for a minute, Chris. Where did you get your start in barbecue?
Well, actually, I got my start in barbecue from my dad. My dad was an executive at Hallmark Cards, corporate Kansas City, and he retired. And my mom basically said, "Find him something to do. He's driving me insane." So we went and bought him back then an Oklahoma Joe cooker, one of the traditional big Oklahoma Joes, which is now Horizon. And from there, it just started, and that would have been back about 88. We started doing this, and that's pretty much where it got started. What you're looking at, the rubs and sauces, those are pretty much theirs. The Kansas City competition sauce was my dad's sauce that he designed and developed, and that's what we won most of our awards with, was those sauces that you see in front of you. And those are all just genuine, developed by my parents and myself.
Nice. So you said you started in 88, correct?
Yeah.
And then your first competition was the same year?
Yeah, our first competition was the same year. It was in Raytown, Missouri. And that's where we're from. We're from that area. Actually went to high school. We lived in Kansas City, but Raytown was our high school. And our first contest was Raytown. And I tell you what, we didn't know what we were walking into. We actually started, my dad was actually cooking on a little Mastercraft at the time smoker, and he was doing a turkey. And basically what happened was, as he was cooking, the firebox broke off because it rotted through. So that was our first deal on competition. And needless to say, it hooked him. And it was just a ball from there. I mean, it was just a storm. The team was me, my mom, and dad. Wow. And that's where you get the 3 Little Pigs. And we just started by doing 1 or 2 contests. And then pretty much in a couple of years, we're doing the most contests we ever did in a year was about 15 or 16. And now I know teams are doing up to 50, but there's no way we could have done that. And we would have just been burnt out. Right. But the competition circuit has changed so much from then to now that you wouldn't even know it.
So what are some of the differences? Because I know I'm pretty new to it for the past couple of years, but you see a lot of different things in a short amount of time, just changing so rapidly. What was it like in, like, let's say your first contest in 88 as opposed to right now?
Let's don't do the first contest. That was a disaster.
Got it.
Let's do a contest for the next couple of years once we learn. And what we did is we sort of started away a lot of people. We had a great mentor, and if anybody's heard the Baron of Barbecue, Paul Kirk, him and my dad's were very good friends, and he was sort of our mentor to sort of help guide us in what we needed to do. And what we've noticed in barbecue over the transition of the last probably 25 years is it's really became now a judging contest. So you got to cook to what the judges like. And if you stray off the grid a little bit, you're going to be toasted. Whereas back when we were cooking for that first 15 years, you basically had to cook good. And there was originality was also in there. You know, everybody pretty much cooks the same now. Everybody knows that. And if you, again, stray a little bit, you get punished pretty bad. Back then, you wouldn't. If you had a little originality, you put a little heat into a sauce, or you spiced it up, or you did something a little bit different, you know what? You did well. You did well. And the other thing back then, all the judges weren't trained. So I sort of liked that, because you would pull a judge off the street, and if you cook damn good barbecue, they know it. And it's, again, they aren't looking for specifics like bite through skin, or if the brisket has that certain pull to it. I mean, you pretty much had to cook good.
Right. So you had to cook to tenderness, and I guess just your flavor. It's just whatever the judges liked at the time.
Absolutely. It was the flavor profile that they liked. And that was sort of a crapshoot. I mean, and that's why we usually did so well, is because we cooked very consistent. We didn't over smoke. We weren't over sweet. We just had a good, true heart barbecue. And again, what I mean about that is, again, it's not that heavy, buttery, heavily injected meat. It was pretty much traditional. We never injected. We never used a heavy butter, or we didn't use a lot of brown sugar. I mean, we let the meat for itself. And if you're a good cook, you were going to show it.
Yes. Yeah. That's what I like at home. Just throw whatever rub on there and just shoot for whatever flavor you're going for. You know what? I really love lemon pepper chicken.
I do too. Yeah, absolutely.
So
all over it.
I grew up on lemon pepper. It's all we had. It's like mashed potatoes, lemon pepper.
Yeah. Dude, lemon pepper on salad with ranch.
Whatever.
Well, that sounds pretty damn good too.
It is.
But again, that's and what we do is, now, as you know, if you've been to a class, I don't teach that competition style. I teach people basically the purity of barbecue. Let's do smoke, let's do charcoal, let's do a rub. Then at the end, if you want to, you do what you want on the end. You want to put a heavy sauce, but I like that traditional dry. Then you make it yourself. And that's the important thing anymore. I don't see a lot of true making it you barbecue in competition.
And speaking of the classes, you do a lot of them. You do them here. I wouldn't say at least once a year, the past few years. I attended yours last year. Yeah, last year. And I got to tell you, man, that I cooked a lot of brisket in my life, and but I've never known really what a bark is until I took your class. And I went home and go, that's what a bark is. And now every time I cook a brisket from now on, I'm like, ugh. It's not the same, because the way you cook it is you don't wrap. You have an interesting way of trimming it, and you kind of cut that. You kind of almost separate them. And I'm not gonna get way into it, but then you use your rubs on it, and you just let it cook for 13 hours in a good one. And it comes out so crispy on the outside, but so juicy on the inside. I mean,
and that's sort of the art. And that's what I like to teach people. You don't have to use foil. Can you use foil? Absolutely. If you like to. I mean, I don't care. But what it is, if you want that true pit brisket that you've got in the 60s and 70s, you have to learn how to do that. And I do more of what they call a Midwest brisket. Midwest brisket is, I'm going to open up the point and the flat, because I want those burn ends. And I'm going to concentrate on both the cuts instead of, again, just that solid flat and point together. I want both those cuts, because if you can show that good burn end, you're going to be able to get a flat.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the great thing about it is, again, the flexibility of a brisket isn't just one cut.
And see, and so you do this, and you have a lot of, so let's talk about the classes for just a sec. A couple of things I learned from your class that was really interesting is the way you select your beef ribs. You have a certain way of doing it, and you send out stuff. So like, what are people going to learn when they take your class? What's something that, if Jared over here is going to take it, what would he learn?
Well, the first thing I do in a class is you have to understand, I love the science. I come from a technical background. That's me, 25 years in computers. And that's what I do. I love technical. So what I do is I go down to the ones and zeros of meat, and I understand how smoke works. I understand how it all works. And once you understand how it works, you can apply your methods to it to make products great. If you understand that you want to cook hot and fast, you know what? That's great. But what I found out that if I can break it down a little bit slower, that meat process is just going to be so much better. And again, you're not forcing the juices up. But when you build that crust, effectively what we're doing is we're building the concrete across. So the last thing I want to do is I want to take that crust. I don't want to wrap it in foil, because as soon as I wrap it in foil, I'm effectively steaming it. And once I start to steam it, I spend all that time developing that crust. It turns into mush.
Yeah.
And that's not what I want to do. But and I love the beef rib. I go down to Texas and teach a lot of beef rib, because again, I have a different method than a lot of traditional Texans do it. And what it is it's actually sort of a simpler way to do it, and you get a little bit better product.
And you're doing it, speaking of Texas, you're doing some really, really good, but your rubs don't have a lot of salt in them, right? You kind of, not the Texas one.
Yeah. Good call. Yeah, that salt thing sort of got me. So, when it comes to the salt, again, we have a tendency to use way too much salt. And what that salt's going to do, it's going to start the osmosis process, start drawing that moisture up. We can back up. We can really flavor. There's so many great spices out there that we can use. I like on the Texas beef, there is a little salt. Of course, I want salt in there for it. But what it is, too, is I concentrate a little more on the Texas beef. It's really probably should be called Midwest beef rub, because it's more of a Midwest spin on it. I'm not going to use a heavy salt, heavy pepper. But what you do is if you can use better quality spices, you're going to get a much better bite. And that's what the peppers that we use in the Texas beef is, a much better quality.
And it comes out salty, actually. I mean, it really does. Has a good salt flavor to it. So... Yeah. But, you go through, you went through pork butt, barbecue and beef ribs and brisket. And, so is that all you do? Is that generally the class, or do you do a couple more?
I do everything. I actually do prime rib. I teach wild game. I do wild game classes for a lot of people. I actually do sausage classes too, teach people how to make sausage. I do pretty much the gambit across. What I'm able to do is I'm able to take the methods and the techniques and pretty much roll them across everything.
Right.
And once you understand method and technique, it doesn't really matter what you cook. It's all going to be generally the same. Just the time and the temperatures are going to be a little different.
Nice.
And you just let it ride. I mean, you're just like you said in the class, like I set my good one up, I just put it in. I go golfing or sleep for 13 hours. I come back and I pull and I eat it.
That's pretty much what we do.
After you separate them, of course.
Yeah.
But
that's the great thing about the smokers too. We get you get beat around because we're a traditional true pit, and we get beat around. Oh, you can't do that. You can't run for 12 hours. And I go, I do it all the time, especially in that Marshall. I've gotten up to 16 hours on 20 pounds of charcoal on that thing when the weather's right, the humidity is right, the temperature's right. But traditionally, I can get minimum 12 hours out of that Marshall. And what it does is, again, it's a true pit. So I'm able to build that bark. I'm able to, build the flavors that I want in it. And that's what people don't understand about a pit is that if your pit is designed correct to work correct, you should be able to get the efficiency of a pellet cooker.
And see, that's the thing. Yeah. Sorry, it actually is 12 hours now. I remember, but so you did. I love cooking this kind of brisket. It's my favorite kind, and you focus on meats that anyone can buy. So you're not doing a Snake River Gold. You're not doing an A9 out of Pensacola, Florida. You're doing a Costco brisket, cutting it up your way, and it tastes like it should be a Wagyu brisket. It comes out really good. And you say something I think is interesting, that hot and fast is great, but you're kind of resting your meat as it goes along as it cooks. Yeah. Right.
Right. Exactly. And when you talk hot and fast, it's really more conducive to Wagyu. Wagyu is so marbled, so heavy, you can cook hot and fast. But when we're talking a traditional choice prime select from a Costco or a Sam's Club or a Restaurant Depot, you know what? You slow it down. I like that temperature between 225, 275. I don't get caught in reading temperatures because I know between 225, 275, it's going to be great. Mm-hmm. I don't use probes. I just know my smoker's going to do what I want it to do.
Right. Right. And speaking of the smoker, so the one right behind me, if you guys are watching on YouTube, is the good one.
Yeah.
Marshall. So to clarify, it's called the good one. That's the company. This particular brand is the Marshall. I have one at home. as everyone knows, because I talk about it a lot. But Chris, walk me through someone who doesn't understand, because this thing is a little different than you might see anything. The intake valves, there's 3 of them. Your out is on the very top. There's 2. And then you have a little handle on the side that kind of adjusts what kind of heat and smoke will come in. So explain the process of, let's just talk about the Marshall specifically.
Well, first of all, we designed a smoker from the ground up. We're not using parts left over from propane tanks, barrels, or anything like that. What we did is we actually did the science thing to it. We looked at how did air flow. Let's design around airflow instead of trying to make something work like a old gas pipeline and welding up boxes to it. What it is air comes up. What we do is we have spinners, or basically that's our air intake. It comes up under the charcoal. That's how we control our heat and our burn. So the more air I let in, the hotter I can get the smoker. I can run a Marshall to 450 if I want. I can run the Marshall all the way down to 175 if I want. So, and that's all based on how much air I'm letting come up under the charcoal. What we do is we have spinners up on the top, and that basically continues the airflow or the draw. We have to have a draw that pulls it around. But you notice on the actual design of the smoker, the angling of the smoker, you can see the different angles. And what it does is it allows the smoke to roll through the smoker. So what we're doing is basically creating a big convection oven. So in the bottom of the smoker, what you'll notice is down towards the pan, there's what we call a heat deflector or a baffle. What that baffle does is it actually draws heat from the smoker box and pulls it up underneath to help balance the top and bottom. We're traditionally about 15 to 20 degrees top to bottom. And for 45 inches, that's not too bad. Side to side, if you're running 250 on the left side, the right side, you're going to be running 250 also. So again, we've worked hard to balance that smoker top to bottom and side to side.
Yeah, that's nice. I was looking at it just before we got on here. What's really cool about it, what I like, is that you have every single rack in there. You buy other smokers and you're like, oh, you have to add on another rack. This thing's packed with racks. You have to remove some just to be able to put like a brisket or a pork butt in there. That's awesome.
And it's all adjustable up and down. That was another idea that I had. The traditional, it comes with a 4 rack. What you'll notice is the catering pans slide perfect in those 4 racks. Actually, we can put up to 7. Mine at home here in Kansas City, I have 7 racks in it.
Nice.
So, again, do I need all 7? No, but they're here because when I do a lot of ribs, I can do a lot of sausage. I can do a lot of chicken. I can cook almost as much as a traditional, I can't remember the exact size, but smoker, but I can cook so much based on footprint versus like a $25,000 or $30,000 smoker based on just sizing of a footprint. So what we done, and actually how we came about that was restaurants in Japan are using these because of the footprint. And a smaller footprint, I can cook a lot more. They have a lot less space than we do to have to use.
I'm just curious, like, so if I pack this thing with a rack of ribs, is the bottom rack going to have a lot of flavor compared to the top rack? I'm just curious just because of, all the juices falling down and you got extra rib.
And the juices will fall. They'll drop into the bottom. And that's any traditional smoker. Anything top's going to come down. Right. A lot of guys, there's a big restaurant in Indianapolis that uses the Marshall to cook traditional ribs for, and he kills it with the ribs. But yeah, it does have more flavor down towards the bottom. And I think we can do close to 25 racks of baby backs on just set up traditionally.
That's awesome.
I do all the sorts. I mean, when I first got it, I wanted something I could do for the catering, and I use it for catering, and it just, I could put so much meat in it,
right.
And it works great. And another thing is that I use a lot of drums at home, but when the elements are like, I don't know what happened to it, but there's this video we posted on Instagram when we were first starting out as a barbecue team, and we were trying to check some temps, and it was in a hailstorm, and it was just raining all day, and we had the good one rolling. And that's what I use if it's inclemental weather. Even if I have just 1 rack of ribs, I'll use that because that one's going to stay consistent over all my cookers. First of all, because the intakes are on the side, not up like your traditional drum would be.
Right.
And I'm not dealing with, pellets. So I'm not like dealing with flimsy metal. So I'm just have this thing, and I just put this out in like pouring rain and cooks great.
Yeah. Yeah, and I do that a lot too. And actually, I hear a lot of people. Well, there's a lot of these smokers in Minnesota. I do a lot of work, as you know, up in Canada and Alberta, Calgary, and they love. I mean, I bet there's 50 marshals in Alberta area, and they love those things.
You can let this thing go for however long. But I was actually watching a barbecue show just recently, and there's a guy in a restaurant. I think he had. It looked like two of these side by side, and he had probably taken one side out and welded it to the other, but he was feeding that thing charcoal, all day, and he just kept it going and going and going. I don't know if you do that, but do you keep that thing going for 12 hours, or do you have to supplement it with some already going charcoal?
I usually when I do these at night, I don't supplement at all. I know how to, and if you start that charcoal right, you know how to start that charcoal. A lot of people want to leave the box open and get that charcoal white hot. That's the last thing you want to do because you're burning out your charcoal. You usually lose about 2 hours when you do that. I give it about 15 minutes. As you know, I use a weed burner to start mine. It usually takes about 10 to 15 minutes for mine to get rolling, and I shut the lid, and I just leave it alone. Now, the more you get into the smoker, and that's, again, what I'm trying to teach people is you don't need to spritz, you don't need to mop. I mean, again, it goes against the quality of the meat. The more you do that, the more the flavors you're taking away of what you're trying to gain. So if you leave that smoker shut, leave it alone, it's going to run 12 hours.
Mm-hmm. And I've had it run 12 hours for me. And I think when I first got is that little, what's it called for the box when it separates the box from the
dampener.
The dampener. Yeah. Once I got that under control and I didn't think I had to push that too far and I could keep it up, everything changed for me. Right. That's where I finally went, okay, I'm going to, I can do it. Once I got that wrapped up, it was great.
Yeah, that's amazing.
All you need to do.
I'm sorry, 12 hours. And that's just off one blue bag?
20 pounder. Mm-hmm. Yeah, 120-pound bag.
That's awesome.
And a lot of people are afraid to load 20-pound bags, but that's what I designed it for, a 20-pound bag of charcoal.
Yeah. So you
load it in.
Yeah, it's a great smoker. So, but let's talk a little bit about kind of like what else you have going on, which is your rubs and your sauces. And you touched on those a little bit. And you said that Paul Kirk was your mentor, which is funny because he has a book on how to make rubs and sauces, like the book to make them. So that was a great start. So tell us a little bit about how like making these rubs and sauces, how did it come about? I know some of them are your dad's invention, but just getting them made and then to market, how does that work?
Well, actually what it is once I got into it, it's a fairly complex process to market them. Now, the great thing is I've been on the market for 15 years with these, and that's unusual. Most of the time, a guy brings out a rub or a sauce. They're usually 3 years and out, and it's a rarity that you see somebody around as long as I have been. But what it does is when I brought them to market, the first thing I did is I had to understand I needed distribution because I'm not going to be a millionaire by selling these online. I don't want to sell them online and pack them and do boxes and things like that. I don't want to have to be driving around taking 1 and 2 cases to stores all over the country. It's just not feasible. So the first thing I did is I developed a distribution plan on how they can be distributed. And I started small in the Midwest, and then it's grown to worldwide. But again, it takes time and it takes a lot of patience. But at the same time, my wife and myself have been out sort of doing classes for the last 15 years to help really get the name out there. And that's the thing that you have to really understand is, and that is once you personalize it to people, you show them how to use the rubs and sauces, you show them how to use the smokers. It's just sort of a different story than you just seeing something on a shelf, especially at a grocery store.
Right. So when you started the rubs and sauces 15 years ago, I'm just curious, has it like progressed? Because obviously preservatives, the FDA is kind of, this has to have this X amount of shelf life, anything like that. Was that a factor throughout 15 years of development?
There's always, you always, when you have them made, you have to have them made at a FDA certified location. You can't make them at your house or in your bathtub and box them and, and there's some guys that do that, where they'll make them at their house. You cannot do that if you want to go into a store, even the store like the Pitstop. I mean, because again, you have to have a HACCP plant. You have to have ingredient panels. You have to have all kinds of different things that go with it. And more importantly, you have to have a company. You have to be LLC. You have to have insurance. And it just sort of snowballs, and you have to really understand what you're getting into. A lot of the guys, hey, I won a third place at a barbecue contest, and I'm going to make a rub. And then they get into it and say, oh God, I got to buy 1,000 pounds. And, I got to buy bottles. I got to buy lids. I got to buy shrink back. I got to buy labels. I mean, there's a lot to it. But again, it's learning. And of course, I come from a business background too. So I had it all planned out before I even brought them out. I knew exactly what I wanted to do. And I think that's where I've been more beneficial and been very much more fortunate. I already had the credentials when I brought them all out. So that really helped too, because I'm able to put those world championships and those championship labels on them.
Right. Yeah, that's a lot of work going into it. Just even being able to, get the nutrition facts, you got to be able to send it out to get the calories read and everything like that too. Yeah. People don't think about that stuff.
I mean, and I send mine to K-State. Fortunately, I'm by K-State, one of the best, nutritional colleges in the country. So again, I have partnerships. I actually teach down at Manhattan. So again, I have a lot of friends that help me get through that.
Nice.
You have a bunch of them though. I mean, I thought I had all of them, but I don't. So I just found that out today. But I use the touch of cherry pretty much on everything. Specifically chicken wings. That's my favorite go-to is I'll let them marinate all night and put a touch of cherry on it. And then I'm good to go. That's my favorite chicken wing. But what kind of brands? What's that? Go ahead.
Funny story about the touch of cherry. That was my mom's rub.
Oh, was it?
And of course, we made fun of it because touch of cherry, that's not a barbecue thing, Oh, and then that cheap. And guess which one of the best sellers, of course?
The touch of cherry.
But the touch of cherry. We have to live that one down all the time.
I love it. I just bought it. I mean, after I took your class, I think I bought like all of them at the class, but except for that one. And I was like, oh, there's a cherry one. I'm gonna go grab it. And I just threw it on there.
I love cherry rubs.
Oh, they're the best.
Yeah. They have that perfect sweet to them.
But what kind of rubs, do you have? I mean, walk us through a couple of walk us through the rubs and sauces and what the differences are.
Okay. Well, first of all, the Memphis is really a unique rub. Based on it's more of a heavy pepper. You notice it doesn't look the same as everybody else. And you open it up and you get a zing, and it's a powdered Worcestershire. So a lot of the guys in Texas love that for their chicken, the Memphis rub. But again, it's unique. It's not something that you're going to find everywhere. You open it up and go, wow. But what I do with that is I actually mix that on my beef. That's sort of my topper on the beef. So when I do my beef ribs, I do my brisket, I'll go with the Texas beef. Then I come lightly dust it with that. But again, it's got a powdered Worcestershire base. As you can see, it's more of a cumin type rub. But man, people love it. Championship, that's the one that speaks for itself. That's my biggest seller is the championship rub. There's a reason it's called the championship. We won a championship on every product with that.
Wow.
So that was my dad's original rub that he developed. It's a very complex rub. Again, he used a lot. We're paprika, a lot of Hungarian in it. Of course, a lot of garlic, a lot of onion powder, good peppers. And again, we come back with light salt in it. But again, that's about that rub that's really going to be general for everything, but it can win with everything. And I still have a lot of people using it and win very well, win quite a bit with it. The Texas beef rub, again, is sort of my Midwest spin on a Texas beef rub. When I do Texas classes, their biggest complaint is, I bite into it. All I taste is salt. All I taste is pepper. What I wanted to do is I want them to taste the meat. So I basically sort of balanced it out more towards a Midwest spin, using a little bit more Hungarian, a little more paprika into it, sort of blanding down the salt, but going with a better quality pepper, not as hot. It's a black pepper, and it gives you a good bite. Kansas City sweet rub, again, it's really traditionally made for ribs. So it's got a little bit of a sweet, but it's got a little more of a garlic tang to it. So it's not going to be that traditional over sweet, too much sugar. All-purpose is basically what it is. It's an all-purpose, and it's got a little more heat. Use a little more cayenne into it. I can use it pretty much traditionally on across the board on everything too. So I know if I have to, I can always go back to the all-purpose. If I have to use something that I know I'll get a good product. But if I want to, I can also blend most of them because we blended a lot of them in competition. And of course, the touch of cherry is, it is what it is. I mean, we use the touch of cherry traditional as our topper, and it's that more of that sugar base. So we'll use that to top over the pork butts and top over the ribs. And a lot of people use it also on pork tenderloins and pork loin because, again, it's not going to offend anybody. It's going to be a good solid rub.
And that's what I use on my pork butt too. A lot of touch of cherry. Well, I learned that in your class actually.
Yeah,
but that's the go-to for me. It's one of those. There's a few rubs you can just kind of put in your hand and eat. You know.
Yeah.
And I do.
Put it on everything. Sprinkle it on some popcorn.
I had somebody in Australia that was putting it on ice cream.
Oh wow, that's a new thing.
That's what I said too. Oh wow.
Maybe you should capitalize that and make the Three Little Pigs cherry ice cream.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's a new thing to market. You get ahead of everybody else. And we have barbecue seasoning market ice cream. It'd be great.
They have pickle everything. Why not barbecue seasoning everything?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we have come out with, have you seen the touch of cherry pretzels?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I think they have them here. They're great.
Oh, right there. Hey, Jared, bring them over here. I haven't tried them. Bring the little bag over here.
Oh, they're so good. Yeah, right there.
That pretzel, those pretzels right there. We're going to try them right now. I haven't tried them yet.
We have to buy it.
Those
I'll buy
have been
it.
a huge hit.
It's all right. You'll be all right.
Anyway, I forgot about those. Go ahead and tell us how that came about.
Well, we were just sort of messing around in the lab. I have all my stuff made at Old World Spices in Overland Park, Kansas, and sort of messing around at the lab trying to, think out of the box. How's that? And just messing around, and this is sort of what we came up with, touch of cherry pretzels, and they do extremely well. And again, that's the great thing. My manufacturer, Old World Spices, is unbelievable to work with. They're great people, and we can really noodle ideas together. I'm coming out with a new mustard sauce here pretty quick.
Nice.
That should be within the next month. And then I'm also coming out with a touch of cherry barbecue sauce.
Oh, wow. Oh,
yeah. And then,
oh, yeah. Got my attention.
And I'll wait till you get a hold of this. We've already done 2 batches of it. It's pretty good. The next thing, I have one more rub, and that's going to be the Kansas City Championship, and we're going to call it, it's going to be hot.
Oh, cool.
We've had a lot of requests to take the championship and put a little heat in it.
Okay.
Nice.
So that'll keep me busy for a good 2 years doing all that.
Yeah, and there's actually just one bag here too. So, Jared, you're gonna have to restock, bro.
Yeah, no, Jared doesn't want to open his register. That's what it is.
It's okay. He doesn't have to open his register. Well, we'll just take it.
Yeah,
when we walk out.
Yeah.
Anyway. Well, yeah, they're easy to take.
Yeah, and they're super good.
Nice.
Okay, so a couple of other things you got going on. We could, dude. I can't believe that. Like, what is it? What's that like saying, oh, yeah, I've won the Royal 8 times?
Well, let me tell you, the first time we won it was a month and a half after my dad passed away.
Oh.
And, that was the Invitational. And, that was a month and a half. Yeah, it was a woe. It was a woe. But it was unbelievable. I was frozen in the spot, and I was frozen. And it was just, I really didn't realize what happened. How's that?
Wow.
But again, I mean, it's just, I guess we're blessed. We've just been blessed to be able to, and again, it's not because we just do a good product. We concentrate on detail. That's all we would do. And after the 4th time, so we went actually in 95, when he was alive, we took reserve at the Invitational. And then we won the Invitational in 2000. Well, we won the Invitational in 97. We won the Open in 98, and that was with 400 teams. Then we came back and won the Open again in 99, and that was with 400. And then we won the Invitational again in 2000.
Wow.
Jeez.
And then we were reserved for the next 3 years in the Invitational.
Still.
So it was just, I mean, it was just, I was just afraid somebody was going to shoot us How's that? There's a lot of Texas teams there.
Well, yeah, that and I mean, at that time, they're the legends, including yourself, were just going up against it. It was like the behemoths of barbecue, back then. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That would be cool. That's really cool. You've won quite a bit of contests.
Yeah.
Do you compete anymore? Do you even try
we go and we go and do the Royal. We'll show up at the Royal and we just do an event. My son will cook it. And what I do at the Royal, and I have an absolute ball. I have my dealers. A lot of my dealers come in from all over the world. I was cooking with guys from Australia. I was cooking from guys with Guadalajara, Mexico this year. Just all my friends come and they pick we basically put it in a hat and they draw out what they have to cook. And I just love it because have we placed? Yeah, we've placed a couple times and those guys almost wet themselves. And that's what I want. I want to see the joy of the people win. Yeah, nice. I've done it enough. I love to see the people in the joy.
So I'll go out there and cook with you.
Yeah, do it, Anthony.
You can. You're welcome. All my friends are welcome.
We're going to be back there. We're going to be out there this year for our first time. So we're really excited about it. I'm really nervous, but I just want to go. Man. I just want to do it. I want to
experience.
I want to go every year for free because I want to win. I want to go to the international. And that's our goal this year is to, we're always the bridesmaids, never the bride. We're like reserve grand champion this, reserve champion that, but never grand champion. So this is our year, right, Jer? Yeah. So this year we're going to crush it and we're going to be there. So we'll see you for sure.
Well, I hope so. And I'll be there to take care of you guys.
Nice. So I have a question for you. What do you believe makes bad barbecue?
Well, again, that's going to be subjective to people. Mm-hmm. But what I think makes bad barbecue is somebody who goes out and buys cheap charcoal, basically throws a product on there. And like my dad always said is, anything that's free is always going to be great. Right. But I think is people don't make it themselves. They don't. And what I mean by that is they get on YouTube University. Oh, I got to do it just like this. This is the way he does it. He wins with it all the time. You know what? Make it you. I don't think there is any true bad barbecue. The only bad barbecue you're going to get is if you put in the science to support this is if you put in a bad fuel source, you're going to get bad barbecue. If you use good traditional barbecue, rubs, I'm not rubs, but you use good charcoals, you use good wood, you're going to get a great product. But no, it's really subjective to what people like. Now I'm not going to lie to you. There's some barbecue in Memphis that I thought was really bad.
Yeah. I mean, it happens.
Yeah.
And it happened, and it was. I mean, it was bad, and it was some places that they really say is great barbecue. But again, they have a reputation. But I was sort of questioning that a little bit because again, it was not good barbecue. It was like they didn't care.
Mm-hmm. They just wanted to do whatever, throw it on, and you talk a lot about, especially in your class, you emphasize what you said was good quality charcoal. So
yeah.
What in your mind is a good quality charcoal? Talk a little bit. I know you have your own line with a good one, but what is a good quality charcoal?
Well, a good quality charcoal is going to be is a charcoal that is actually processed correct. What do I mean by processed correct? Is when it goes through the kilns, they get it down to the right moisture content. So it's going to burn hot and it's going to burn clean. And what it means by that, understanding the science behind it, the nitrates and the nitrites that come off that charcoal, that is what's forming your flavor. If you get a charcoal that's subpar, hasn't been processed correctly, right moisture content out of it, that's when you're going to see your heavy creosote builds up, your heavy smoke build up into the smoker, just a heavy buildup. It's just, again, it comes down to the quality of the charcoal and that charcoal, how it is processed out. Can you make your own charcoal? Yes. And it actually works pretty well if you make your own and you learn how to do it. But a lot of these charcoals that are coming from offshore are not processed correctly. And they're also the traditional woods that we don't use. So if you get a charcoal that's coming out of Africa, you don't know what kind of wood they put in it. They could put damn railroad ties in it. You don't know. But, the woods that you get in the U.S. from our areas that make the charcoals, they're good quality wood. So if they say they're oak, pecan, and hickory, they have to be oak, pecan, and hickory. But if they're coming from offshore, and they're coming in big containers. They're just throwing stuff in containers for weight, then they bag it here. I'm always skeptical.
Right. And it's very important. I mean, depending on the situation, I'm a big Kingsford fan for grilling and stuff because that's what I grew up on. That's what I know. Like that flavor for me is so, what barbecue. It was hard to
accessibility too,
The more I get into different kinds of quality charcoal, the more I become more, I don't know, hipsterish about it. But it just really depends on what you kind of grew up with. But you're right, though. I found some things I found in charcoals that are from other countries that had some weird stuff in it, man.
Yeah.
Like I taken pictures. It was crazy. Then you still get that with good American charcoal because I don't think there's you can't really go through every single piece of charcoal. But
and what people don't understand about charcoal when it's made traditionally in the U.S. Oh, I get a rock in it. Well, I know why you get rocks in it is because when they pull it out of the kilns, they actually cool it down in fields. So when they scrape it up, they'll scrape it up with a front loader, and sometimes those pieces of charcoal or pieces of rock will get through the screen. So that's going to happen in any good USA made charcoal because they want to cool it down. Right. And so they'll pull them in the kilns, they'll pull them to cool. And then what's happening when they're scraping it back up, it's just not getting caught in the filter.
Yeah. And I got a charcoal rock out of one too. And it's on my little table outside of my with all my pits and stuff on my table. It's my charcoal rock. It's my good luck charm.
Nice.
That's what I use it for. So I always thought that was important because you talk a lot of in your classes, you talk a lot of stuff like that. You get down to the nitty gritty why of, which is important.
Yeah. Right.
So again, I can't say enough about your class. If you come again, I'll take your class again because it was really informative and the food was unreal.
Right. So actually, when are you coming back to Salt Lake?
Yeah.
I'm scheduled in Salt Lake, I think in July.
Perfect.
Cool. Yeah. I'm signing up for that one. If I'm in town,
I'm pretty sure.
No, July's good for us because there's like zero barbecue competitions in July for some weird reason.
I learned my lesson. Don't do classes in Utah in November. I did that one year.
And see, last time you came here, you were at the Salt Lake store, and you were. I mean, I didn't make it, but
he was here.
He was here, and you were testing out the good ones. So when you do come, do you do that a lot?
Yeah.
So look out for that too. If you guys want to see what the good one is in live, if you look and see if you're doing that because I wish I would have come to that. That'd been cool. But you do a lot of stuff. Is there anything do you have a restaurant too? It's a catering,
actually,
right? It's
I have a little I don't do it anymore. It's a little restaurant down at Crown Center, and it's been going on now for 15 years. It's just a little lunch crowd restaurant. And Crown Center is basically a Hallmark complex where my dad worked for 35 years. And there's not a lot to it. It's actually cooked by a very reputable place. It has to be commissary because we cannot cook on site there. But we have a fantastic restaurant that cooks for it. And one of the best in Kansas City cooks for it. And they use all the championship stuff. They use the championship rubs and everything like that on everything. But again, it just sort of cruises. It's a lunch deal. And again, if you can say it's been kept open for 15 years, I feel pretty proud of that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's great. Well, that class, by the way, is July 11th here at the Salt Lake City BBQ Pitstop, where we are live again today with, you can come see Jared Swift. He's the manager here. Come say hi. Where can they find you at, Chris?
They can find me on actually my Three Little Pigs website, www.3-little-pigs-bbq.com. And I was just picked as one of the top 100 blogs in the country. I have a lot of recipe out there, and I have a lot of the science stuff out there. And I try to put blogs out there that help people make it easy. And my biggest blog is basically, what do you tell a guy when you go to buy beef ribs? What is the actual number that I tell a guy? I have so many questions on what do I buy on a beef rib? Do I buy plates? Do I buy chucks? How do I cook them? Where do I get them? So I do blogs like that. I listen to what people say in the class. They say, man, here's what I struggle with. What's the difference between Wagyu? What's the difference between a regular steak? What's between Japanese Wagyu, American Wagyu? I do stuff like that. But again, that's my blog, and it works really well. And again, it's not pretty. I'm not. But again, I just want the information out there. I really don't care how pretty it is. I want to get the right information out.
Sweet.
Cool. Well, you guys can find that on our website. I'll post that up on our website. You can go to the events there too. You can also go to the events here on Three Little Pigs barbecue, his website. You can find it there too and sign up. So there's a couple ways to do it. But hey, man, we really appreciate talking to you. It's been an honor. And again, if you guys haven't tried some of these rubs, please do. I highly suggest them. I literally have them. My wife said, you have to put the rest in a box. I have like 45,000. And the ones I pulled up was Championship, Memphis, and the Touch of Cherry. So I use them all the time. Great rubs, great class. It's awesome talking to a legend. We really appreciate you coming, talking with us today.
Well, thank you so much. And again, I love everybody out there in Utah, and I hope to see you.
Yes.
Okay. Sounds good, man. Thanks. All right. Talk to you soon.
Yep.
All right. Well, that was Chris Marks.
Yeah, it was awesome. Yeah. There's a lot of information there. Go back, grab your notepad and get to work, especially with this going.